Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I think you can probably guess what today's video is going to be. If you don't know where I am and if you're new to the channel, then this is our main bedroom and it's been decorated. For over 3 years it had been the same bedroom. We hadn't even finished painting it, and today I'm going to reveal what it finally looks like. You can kind of see, I think, in this shot, but we're going to do a full in-depth transformation of this room and hopefully you guys like it. I mentioned a few weeks ago that my goal for this year, for the end of this year, is to reach 100,000 subscribers on this channel. I know that's a big ask, but guys, it would really help if you haven't already, then please click that subscribe button. It's free for you to do and it really helps me out, so I would really appreciate it if you could click that subscribe button. Also, click the like button and leave a comment. I always like to know what you guys are saying. So enough of me talking. Without further ado, let's get on with the bedroom reveal. And I think we're going to start by going backwards in time to what this room used to look like, and maybe even what it looked like when we moved into this house.
If we start at the beginning and go back to December 2021 when we first got the keys to this house, this is what our main bedroom looked like. You can see at this point I'd already started to remove some of the wallpaper from the walls, and we really were quite lucky with this room. We didn't really have that many issues. I know some of our neighbours had to take down their ceiling and redo it, but we really didn't have that many issues. All we had to do was take off the wallpaper, replaster the walls, remove the wooden flooring that was in the room, and then fix some of the floorboards because they were quite squeaky and also quite damaged. But other than that, we didn't really have anything to worry about. After the wallpaper was taken down, we decided to replaster these walls because it was cracked in various places and the cracks ran quite deep. As soon as the plaster was dried, we then decided to paint, put our carpet down, and then we ordered our bed so we had somewhere to sleep. Now, after the bed was in, we decided that this room felt quite boring. What we decided to do was get our carpenter in to build a panelled wall behind the bed and also a shaker style wardrobe just to bring in a bit more character and obviously practicality because we needed some storage in this room. Once everything was built by our carpenter, we gave everything a few licks of paint and it pretty much stayed the same for the next 3 years. Some of you might say this room looks lovely as it did here, but it really just didn't feel like a design space. It was always just the room we moved in first and we lived in during the whole renovation. So after 3 years, we both decided it was time for a change.
Right, hello everyone. We're on day 2 of painting the main bedroom. I've just popped a blanket onto the bed because I was actually painting the ceiling rose last night. And if you've ever painted a ceiling rose, it's one of the most infuriating things I've ever done. There's so many nooks and crevices you have to get the paintbrush into. But this is where we are so far. I've painted, I'm not sure if you can see, but I painted the side of the bedroom where the bed is all in the colour that I've chosen, which I don't think I've talked to you guys about. It's a little green colour called Invisible Green. It's gone on the skirting, the walls, and it's going on the ceiling as well, and obviously the ceiling roses. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start to paint the doors and the good old trusty wardrobe. This wardrobe has always been this colour. We actually installed this ourselves. It was inspired by a Devol cupboard, I think, like a shaker style kitchen that we saw with Devol, but we turned it into a wardrobe. Obviously hanging parts up here, then drawers down below for like socks, pants, t-shirts, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, we're going to take it the same colour as the wall and I'm really excited. So without further ado, let's get started and hopefully I like how it looks.
Do you remember that Afro house event I went to on the rooftop?
Okay, last chandelier of the day. I just had to carry this up as punishment for making Dad.
Last time you got to pull that up.
Oh yeah, sorry. All right. Do you hear the sass in my dad's voice? So we're gonna put this one up next. Sorry, and then the one in the hallway that used to hang in our bedroom. I'm trying not to show you the room colour because it's not actually meant to be revealed just yet, but I will show you in a second when it's up. Okay, welcome to the mess of the back garden. We haven't been out here in about a week. We left all the cushions out and all of the holly like flower petals have fallen and it's just a bit messy out here, so we need to tidy this today. But I just popped to the garden centre to get some plants for the bedroom. I forgot to start filming, so I've halfway done this, but I've just bought two Aquilegia. One's white, Barlow white, and the other is Barlow black. So this one is like the blacky purple variety. And then I've got a second one here that I'm just going to pot into these pots. And I'm going to try and find a space for them in our bedroom because I've realised I much prefer having potted plants in the house than flowers. They're a lot cheaper and they last a lot longer. So I'm going to pop these in now. I've just got some spare little broken bits of pottery that Chad made the other day. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop this Aquilegia, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, in this one here. And here we are. I'd love to know what you guys think about the bedroom. I think this is actually my favourite room. This room was all about making it moody, more masculine, and a space that really feels like a gentleman's bedroom. But I really just love all the details in here. This chandelier Chad actually found as an accident, basically. One of the chandeliers that we put in the downstairs dining room last week, we found on eBay, and Chad went into this guy's house to pick up that chandelier, and the guy was actually moving to Spain, so he needed to sell all of his furniture, all of his antiques. Apparently his house looked like a museum of antiques, basically. But Chad spotted this chandelier on one of the other ceilings and said, well, if you're going, is that one for sale? And it was. So a few weeks later we drove back to pick the chandelier up, and it is a huge chandelier, but I feel like because it's over the bed, it doesn't really take away from the space in the room, so it really fits the space and just adds a really lovely charm to the room. It's such a beautiful chandelier. And then also, I would have shown last week, these dolly switches really do add a little bit of character. It's a really subtle character that it adds to the room, but over time the brass is going to pattern up. It's going to really add some age to the brass over the time with our oil in our hands when we touch it, and it's just going to look really beautiful. So I'm really happy with those two things in particular. Again, this room is yet to be corniced. I just cannot for the life of me find a cornice that I like, and I might even have to try and design one and get one made myself. But for the time being, colour drenching this room has really taken away from looking at the ceiling, and it doesn't look like it should be there. So I'm super happy with how this room looks in terms of the character, in terms of the moodiness. I know I said months ago that I was done with dark rooms, but I just don't think it's me. I really, really love a dark room. And one thing I've learned, and one piece of advice that I could give you, if you're looking to take a room into a moodier sort of style, then just think about how much light it gets. We're really lucky with this room that it is south facing, so pretty much all day long it's flooded with light, which means even though it's a dark room in here, technically on the walls, it's always bright, and it just casts the most beautiful shadows across all of the cupboards when the sun shines in, and it just makes it feel really warm and cozy. So I love how this room turned out, and I think this is actually my favourite room in the house. And I think you guys know me by now, but I might have to redecorate some other rooms. I've already talked to Chad about changing the colour in our lounge, and I don't know, I think decorating this room has really made me want to go really like heritage in the house. Lots of Georgian colours. I don't know, you might be seeing a few more rooms changed. The bathroom I'm not going to touch, but I think the lounge I might be coming for you next, lounge, so watch out. But yeah, let me know down below what you think about this room, what's your favourite piece, and I hope you like it. So what we're going to do now is the window boxes that were in the front of the house. I've ordered 3 more from Burford, but I don't think they've come yet. But we have 3 more window boxes for the back of the house, which means that we need to basically move the plants around to make them look nicer at the front. So what we've done is the daisies we bought at the front are Moroccan daisies, and they're a bit too long. So Chad wanted something a bit shorter. So what I've done is I've just gone to go and get some Marguerite, which is a French daisy, I think.
I wouldn't say I wanted it shorter, I wanted something with more volume.
Yeah, if I can find an image, then when we were walking through the streets of, I think it was Marylebone. Was it Marylebone we were in?
It was.
It was like Harley Street, Marylebone. Belgravia?
No, it was Marylebone on the way to the dentist, and it was pouring off that
Yes,
townhouse.
that's right. But I think Marguerite sort of billows out and it looks quite cloud-esque, and it has lots of little daisy heads on it. So what we want to do is basically try and recreate that. So we've bought some big Marguerite plants. Chad wants to say something?
No, I was just going to say, it's mostly like they really fill out and they also sort of droop down.
They spill over, yeah.
They flower until like late August.
Yeah, I'll show you them in a second, but they literally flower from I think May till October. They're a long flowering plant. I don't know if they survive well over the winter, so we'll have to go and look. But what I'm going to do now, rant over, is I'm going to take you into the back garden. We're going to swap out the daisies, and then we're going to go put them in the bedroom. And then
the Moroccan ones, I think we should put them in one of the beds outside.
we can, or I've ordered the 3 other plant pots so they could go at the back of the house, but I don't think Chad's a fan of that. He wants the same in all of them.
Yeah, I want Marguerite.
Marguerite. I think Marguerite's French, I want to say. But enough talking, let me go and show you what I'm actually talking about. Okay, so these are the daisies I planted in these a few weeks ago. As you can see, they're just rather tall. I think they're around like, what, 7 or 8 inches tall. But the ones that Chad wants, you can really tell the difference between how bushy they are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop these into this window box, and then what we'll do is we'll swap them, I think, over when the new window boxes come. So I'm just going to do this really quickly, and then I'll take you upstairs into the bedroom again, and we'll pop them on the windows. They're not actually fixed to the windows, and people keep saying to me that might be an issue when it's really windy, but I don't think it is. I think they're heavy enough to support themselves and not move anywhere. But let me know your opinions. I think you're probably going to tell me to secure them down with brackets or something, but let me just swap these over quickly. I need to find my gardening gloves. Number 1 is complete. I'm just going to pop this upstairs and I'll come back down to do number 2. Okay, so next job is I've just removed the lavender. It wasn't doing very well here. I don't know if you can see, but sometimes lavender, if it's in a shady area, doesn't really grow very well, and oh, this was it, if you can see. It's growing on half of the side, but this side is just completely, I don't think it's dead, I think it's just dormant. So we're gonna put this somewhere else in the garden where it's not sort of first thing you see coming out the back door. But when we went to the garden centre the other day, they had a big, juicy lavender plant that I'm gonna pop in here. So I'm gonna do this, and then the last thing, I don't know if you can see behind me, but there is a David Austin rose that I bought from the same garden centre the other day, and I want to plant it on this wall here. It's a rambler, so it should ramble across all of the wall quite quickly. It's a white rose called Alberic Barbier. Barbier? I can't read it. I'll go a bit closer in a second and I'll show you, but we'll do this lavender first, and then we'll move on to that rose. So this rose is Alberic Barbier. I'll link it below, but apparently it's a very tall rambler, grows 25 foot, which is 7.5 meters tall. You gonna catch this? Right, so the plan for this rose is I'm gonna remove this foxglove, which I know isn't ideal, but I basically need to move that foxglove to the left a little bit because this rose needs to go in there. So let's try and move this foxglove. And there you go, one planted rambling rose. I think this is going to take off quite quickly, or I hope so. So what I'll probably do in a few weeks' time is do my supports, pop some steel wire in so this can grow nice and neatly up the wall. Well, as neatly as possible. I don't even know if you can see that. Can you see where I am? It looks quite cramped, if you can see, but just have faith that in a few weeks' time, a few months' time, this will sort of be spread across, and hopefully it won't affect the hydrangeas and everything around it because it's more so going to grow up than around. So watch this space. I'll probably do like a before and after in a few months' time, and hopefully it will be a lot bigger in size. I now have the wonderful task of cleaning all of this up, so I'm probably going to put on one of my lovely time lapses with some nice music and get to sweeping up all of this. I also need to go and sweep up all of the bits down there, so this should be fun. I thought I'd just talk through this area here. As you can see, we have 2 jasmine plants potted in these concrete planters. They're not doing badly, but they're not doing amazingly. So what I want to do is find a big, like huge, it's going to have to be quite big, trough. I would prefer, I think, a bathtub zinc metal planter, whereas I think Chad wants like a nice terracotta pot, which obviously I would like as well, but I think they're just very expensive. And I don't really want to spend lots of money on this area when we don't really know what we're doing with the house in terms of like extending the kitchen or whatever. But ideally what we need to do is find, I'd say probably like 1 meter by like 80 centimeters worth of big plant pot, and then I want to put these 2 jasmines in, and then these wire vine things I have, I want to pop them all the way around, and it's going to sort of billow around the edges and be like a really pretty plant when you come out into the garden. But at the moment it's quite hard to clean all the like mud and dirt down there, and also you can't water these because the concrete planters don't really have that much space in them. So if anyone has any recommendations for a big plant pot for here, send them my way and I'll be very appreciative. But I've just swept up the whole garden. Now it's time to go back inside and finish the day. Back into the kitchen. I showed you guys yesterday the plasterer came round and the wall has been replastered. As you can see, it's drying. It's drying really quickly. Obviously now we have the heating on, we have doors, we have insulation. It's not taking as long as it used to take when we first got the house plastered, so it's a really good sign. But it's nice and warm inside. But I've been painting the bedroom all day upstairs. You probably would have seen the colour already, but I've just finished painting the whole thing. It's taken me about 3 days to paint, I'm not gonna lie. That ceiling took about 3 coats, the ceiling rose took me hours, but it's all done. But in the meantime, I'm gonna stop for today up there, and I'm just gonna cook a good hearty sausage ragu using the salsiccia that I bought from Bailey and Sage the other day in Fitzrovia. So we're gonna cook that really quickly. This is, I think, my go-to meal. It's the only meal I cook consistently that Chad asks for. Am I right in saying that?
It's your best one.
Chad thinks it's my best dish, and I think it's,
It's like a staple.
It is a staple, yeah. It's just that it's basically, I think the average person in the UK probably cooks a spaghetti bolognese, which isn't a real Italian dish, but this is a kind of, I guess this is quite an Italian dish. It's a Tuscan ragu, sausage, milk, lemon zest, tomatoes, rosemary, onions, bog standard, but it just tastes really good and it always comes out really, really well. So we're gonna cook this now really quickly. It takes around like an hour, I'd say. I like to slow cook it because I feel like the slower you cook the tomatoes, the richer the taste is. So we're gonna get to cooking that now. And we are back in the bedroom. I think the last clip you would have seen was when I was cooking the sausage ragu, and that was a few days ago now. So we're going to fast forward to today. And I realised I haven't really talked about everything in the room. So I think what I'll do, as I always try to do, I'll leave everything linked below that I can. But I know I'm probably going to have a few questions about some of the pieces in this room. So I thought I'd really quickly touch on where they're from. The obvious things, the antiques, they're all from a mixture of eBay and like antiques market. So I can't really link anything like that. But everything else, I will try and leave linked below. First thing is the bedside table lamps. So we used to have lamps from Pookie, which were plug-in wall sconces, but these I got from Ochre, surprise, surprise, a few days ago now. These lamps are really beautiful, and I don't know if you know me by now, but I love a table lamp. I love a rechargeable lamp. And I will say it's getting harder to find really high quality lamps. I think for some reason lots of companies go down the route of like really cheap woods, like there's a lot of mango woods, and I don't know, sometimes I think the designs just don't look very, for my taste basically, they don't look very traditional and they don't look very expensive. But I think these lamps, I don't know if it comes across on camera, but they look really, really lovely, and they look as though they belong in a really traditional office, or I don't know, somewhere just really traditional looking, very heritage. They are slightly more oriental than anything I have in the house, but if you come in up close to them, all the way across the lamp shade and the base of the lamp, there's like a crackled leather effect, and clearly they're not leather, it's just the way they've been hand painted, but it just adds a really beautiful detail up close. They are quite expensive, and I think they're out of stock now online, so I had to scour London for them, and I actually found these two in the Ochre shop in Chelsea in Kings Road, and my sister actually volunteered to go and collect them for me whilst I was painting this room, so thank you, Jordan, if you're watching. But yeah, I really love these lamps. They're a really beautiful lamp. They also come in a red colour, so I will try and link both the blue and the red below. Again, I'm hoping that you guys, if you want them, can access them online, but they were out of stock online when I wanted them. Other things in this room, I always get asked about this bedspread from John Lewis. It's a really beautiful bedspread, and I haven't taken it off the bed. It has a really lovely collection of muted colours, lots of oranges, lots of blues and greens. And it would sound quite busy, but it looks really subtle and muted because they're not very vibrant tones, so it just really goes with this room. The bedding I always get asked about is from Piglet in Bed. Again, I'll leave it linked below. It is their, I think it's a Somali stripe in the green. They have a clay and then a green option. I think the clay colour, it's like an orange colour, would look really lovely in this room as well. I think it would look really vibrant. But I'm going to order some more bedding with them, I think, because I have my eye on some other pieces of bedding from them. Again, very expensive, but I think with bedding you can make an exception because you spend so much time in your bed, and when you do buy really high quality bedding, you will not regret it. The quality of sleep you get from a night in really high quality bedding is just unmatched. We used to have a really high thread count bedding set from Dusk, which I used to talk about all the time on here, but this knocks that out of the park. So Piglet in Bed, I think, is definitely my favourite company for bedding at the moment. So yeah, I'll leave that linked below. I touched on the plants yesterday. Some of you might think they look a bit weird, and I'm not gonna lie, they do look a bit weird because they're not the plants I would typically choose. When I wanted to style this room, I wanted loads of foxgloves. I think some lupins in here would have looked really cool with their long cylindrical flowers. But this is what my garden centre had, so we make do with what we had. In the window we have some geums. I really love the orange, the burnt orange and the red tones against the green. I think they look really beautiful. And the one on the bed does look a bit weird, but it's a mixture of, I think it was Aquilegia and some marguerite and some wire vine. So I think that potted plants are a really good alternative to having bouquets of flowers all around your house. I'm pretty sure most people like flowers in their home, but they are very expensive. We usually get our flowers and our bouquets of flowers from Columbia Road Flower Market, which is a flower market in East London. I've been there quite a few times, so quite a few of you should at least be aware of it from me, if you're not based in London. But A bouquet there is quite expensive. Obviously the prices are marked up because A, it's in London, and B, it's a tourist trap. So the bouquets of flowers you get are very expensive. But even from shops and florists, bouquets can be really expensive. You're looking at anywhere between 30 to like £150 for a bouquet, a nice bouquet of flowers. And I think potted plants are a really lovely option and a really budget friendly option, because if you go to your local garden centre, you can pick up, what, 4 or 5 plants for under £30, obviously depending on the size of the plants and what they are and the garden centre you go to. But I think if you have a few pots lying around the house, some outdoor plants in plant pots can look really lovely. Don't get me wrong in what I'm saying, because a few weeks ago I did say I don't like indoor plants, and I still stand by that, but there's a difference between indoor plants and outdoor plants that you plant indoors. If that doesn't make sense to you, then I'm thinking Ficus benjamina, I'm thinking cacti, I'm thinking peace lilies, I think that's what they're called, spider plants. Personally, I don't like the look of those because they to me look as though they're indoor plants. But I think when you have something like this geum in a really lovely distressed pot, it just looks really lovely, and it lasts a lot longer than a bouquet of flowers, costs you less, and once you're done with it indoors, once it's starting to look a bit unhealthy, you can either plant it outdoors, you can gift it to someone. I just think it's a lot better value for money. So I think if you're looking to get some bouquets in your house, maybe swap them out for plants, even shade tolerant plants. Ferns look quite nice indoors. But yeah, that's my rant over. And then the last things in the room I always get asked about. This bolster cushion is also from John Lewis. I will leave it linked below. It's their collaboration between Sanderson and John Lewis. A really beautiful blue stripe that I think goes with quite a few interior choices and styles. That also comes in, I think, a green stripe as well, which is like a really lovely sage green stripe. And then of course I'll include an overlay, but there's an armchair in the corner of this room which is also from John Lewis. It's a traditional style bobbin legged oak armchair. It's really beautiful, it's really comfy, and it's now become my reading spot. So I now read a book in the corner of the room, and it's just really cozy in here. I can't deny, I'm really liking this room. So I'm going to stop talking about it because you guys are probably sick of me talking about it. But yeah, if you have any other questions, please do fire away in the comments and I will try to respond to as many as possible. But as I said, everything should be linked below. One more update on the kitchen. The kitchen plaster is now fully dried. And we have made a decision, if you haven't seen the other videos, by the way, this might not make sense to you, but we've made a decision on the tiling we're going to go for in the kitchen. I will link my previous video down below where I talk about the kitchen. But for any of you who don't know, we have taken away all of the cabinets above our cooker and we're actually replacing it with tile. And I did say to you last week we were going to put in a really long shelf and have a nice brass pot rail going all the way across, hanging antique pots and stuff. But we've decided to scrap the shelf. 2 reasons. We've now been living with the kitchen as it is for, I'd say, just coming up to a week, and it just functions a lot better as a kitchen. There's a lot of space on the side where the oven is, which means you can chop all your veg, you can pop it straight into the pan, and it's just very open and airy, and it makes the kitchen feel a lot brighter, which is what so many of you have already said, even though we haven't really done anything with it yet. But I think adding a shelf there would be a mistake, and I don't really want to make another mistake with the kitchen. So what Chad and I have decided is to order our Devol tiles, and we're also going to go with the border. So what we're going to do is we're going to tile the whole back of the kitchen backsplash all the way across that cupboard stretch, and then we're just going to hang a pot rail in front of the tile, and I think that's going to probably look the nicest. What do you think? Do you think that's right, or do you think it's not? We've made the decision now, so that's what it's going to look like. A lot of you were saying you didn't like the tile choices, and I get where you're coming from because they are quite simple and they're quite pared back. But something that I wanted to do in the kitchen was we have red cupboards, so I wanted the tile to not sort of clash and counter the colour of the cupboards, and so I wanted something that was more of like a layering piece that you could layer things on top of without taking over the whole kitchen. So I'm not sure if you can see, but we've ordered these tiles. They're a handmade tile. They vary in tones, so they're all different tones of cream, and then we've opted for a border tile on top of it. And I think we're going to grout it with like a light grey grout. I'll pop in an inspo picture here so you can see what I'm talking about. But that is the decision we've made. Again, let me know your thoughts. I can't wait to install it. There is one slight issue, and that is that these border tiles are in stock for the amount that we've ordered, but because they're all handmade, the subway tiles and the border tiles, these are not in stock. And the lead time is looking as though it's going to be 8 to 10 weeks until we get this border tile. So we have two options. The first is to tile as we get them, and then just add the border tile on later. But the issue with that is we're gonna have to pay a tiler twice. It's just a bit inconvenient, and I don't know if we really wanna do that. So the second option is I call Devol and ask them if there's any way to speed up the lead time. And they said just because it's handmade and it's all made in their factory, it might not be possible. So what they've suggested is to wait until the border tiles are ready, because if we order them at different times, the tones might be a bit too different because they're all handmade at that period. So if they come from the same batches, they're saying that basically it would look a bit better. So we've placed the order. I've yet to find out what's going to happen, but as we find out, I will share it with you guys. But yeah, kitchen part 2 might be coming a bit later than I thought it would. But we do have other things to do in the kitchen. We need to paint the wall behind the kitchen. I'm debating whether to change the colour in the kitchen, purely because the colour of this and the colour of the wall are quite similar, so I think maybe a different colour option would be better. And then we need to add lights and quite a few other things. So we do have other things to do in the kitchen, it's just the tiling, the main part of it, will not be coming as soon as we wanted, but that's fine. Sometimes you have to wait for things, which isn't an issue. We have also ordered the really long brass rail, so I will be sharing that with you when we get it. Hopefully that comes next week. But yeah, there are all the updates from me. But yeah, as I said, if you have any other questions, let me know and I will try to get back to you on it. So yeah, I think I'm going to sign this video off right here. And just thank you again, guys, for watching. Again, if you could click that subscribe button. I know we've brought the numbers down quite a lot. When I started YouTube, I think around 80% of my viewers weren't subscribed. And now I think 40% of viewers aren't subscribed. So 60% of you, thank you so much. The other 40%, you've got some work to do. But yeah, I shall leave you guys here now. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week and I shall see you next Sunday. You know I'm playing on It's me, Mario. Back into the kitchen. I showed you yesterday that